I was going to share last week, and I'll share it today, that we're going to pause on Kings for a moment. I'm going to come back into it in the new year. I'm going to pause on it again. My favorite books of the Bible, but I want to pause and go somewhere else. I want to go somewhere else because we are coming into this season, this wonderful season of Thanksgiving, and God has given me things to share and things to dive into. So I want to pause on Kings after today and go into some different areas of the seasons that we're particularly in right now, coming into this season of time where the world celebrates the birth of Jesus. And the world celebrate a few different things that we'll get into later on. But this will be our pause again. We're going to go back after the end of December. We'll come back into Kings. So I want to finish out chapter 12 today in the book of Kings. So you can go with me there. First Kings chapter 12 is where we're going to go for today's message. And I pray you hold on to it. I still pray that you got a journal. And whether you're listening to me on Zoom, Facebook, YouTube, that you have a journal, and your journal is entitled The Book of Kings, and you are writing down what God has taught you, shown you, revealed, where you have corrected errors in your life or in your thinking, where you've seen God pull someone else through. During this particular time of going through this journey of First Kings, so that you in the future can empower someone as they read your legacy, as they read what you wrote down. So let's go in First Kings chapter 12. First Kings chapter 12. I'm going to read a lot of it from the NIV translation of text, but I'll try not to read word for word because it can get kind of lengthy. So I do want you to have your meditation time to go back and read the word. So again, First Kings chapter 12. So when we're looking at First Kings chapter 12, we have come so far. So much has happened. I hope you agree that so much has happened in First Kings chapter 1 to now get into chapter 12. It's like I mentioned before, it's like a soap opera, like One Life to Live. Soap opera as the world turns. Soap opera, when you get into these books of Kings and they tell you about people that were in positions of rule and positions of authority that God had put them in, and what they did with that position, what they did with that rule, what they did with their everyday living according to what God stated, or deciding to do something different, right? Or living a wise life, or deciding to live a foolish life. So I love these chapters. It always make me think, and it always make me examine where I am in my relationship with God. And when it comes to submitting my life to Him, when it comes to trusting Him in the good and then trusting Him in the bad times, and dealing with integrity in positions that He placed me in different aspects of my life, upholding, God's will, and allowing God to use me to be a tool that He has in this earth that can be a living witness for other people to be able to come to and be strengthened. So I'm excited about it always. And in the previous chapters of First Kings, we saw the rise of King Solomon, and we saw the fall of King Solomon. And now we have read about this son that he has. When you come into 12, you start to read about Solomon's son. Solomon's son is Rehoboam. So we read about his son, and we read about the father's sins. We read about King Solomon's sins, and we read about the consequences that God gave and said in reference to how King Solomon did not line up to what God told him to do, even though God was giving him everything, every resource to do it with. So we read about those consequences and the how God was going to deal with the sin. God told him that he would tear the kingdom down from him. He would tear it away from Solomon. He would tear it away. The kingdom that he promised his father, he was going to tear it out of Solomon's hand. And God said, I'm just not going to do it in your day, because I promise your father, I'm paraphrasing, I promise your father that he will always have a lineage to the throne. I promise your father that you would always rule. So God is not a God of broken promises, and God is not he's not two-faced, right? What he says is law and rule. So God said, I already told you that your son was going to be able to rule. So I'm not going to go back on my word, but I'll tell you this. Because of your son's sin, because of Solomon's sin, I'm going to tear the kingdom away, but I'm going to tear it away from Solomon's son. That the 12 tribes, Solomon's son is going to lose them, all due to the father's sin. So and when we get into chapter 11, we see that. We see the fall, and we see this how King Solomon disobeyed. And we see in chapter 11 that King Solomon died. But before his death, God allowed us to see that God was raising up an adversary to the throne. And this is always so interesting to me, because before Solomon died, he was disobedient, but God had to, because now let me go back. God was so good to King Solomon, he didn't have any adversaries. He was winning all the wars. Every one that came against him, he won. He had victory in every single area. So now, in order to have his lineage lose the kingdom, to have it torn away, God had to raise up an adversary to the throne. So we see that happening in chapter 11, God raising up an adversary to Solomon, and that is Jeroboam. So this is now how we see that the future kingdom will be torn away from the lineage of Solomon, because God is raising up an adversary to the throne. So now, beloved, we are in chapter 12. So now, chapter 12, Solomon's son is now king after his daddy's death. His name is, again, King Rehoboam. So there's a gentleman that God raised, that God had, birthed and raised along the way. This gentleman's name was Jeroboam, and Jeroboam heard that Solomon was dead. When he heard that King Solomon was dead, Jeroboam was given a word. He was given a word by a prophet that he would one day be king. But he now see that, how am I going to be king? Solomon has a son. He has a son, Rehoboam. And in this time, everything was left to the male child. He said he has a son, so how am I going to be king? I'm not even his flesh and blood. But Jeroboam was given the word that he would be king. And because he feared that, he didn't want to be killed by King Solomon. He feared Solomon because he knew that Solomon won every battle. So he ran into hiding. He ran into hiding and awaited the day that this word would come to pass, that he would get the throne. So the question now that we have in the book of Kings, the question now is, will King Rehoboam rule wisely or not? Now, remind you, there's a gentleman in waiting, Jeroboam, who's been given a word that he'll one day be king, but he don't know how that is possible, how that will even come to pass. And I'm mindful for that, because I know many times God has given me a word. I was just sharing with my friends 2 days ago about how God had told me something, and I had no idea how God was going to do it. But last week it happened. And I couldn't, when God gave me the word many months ago, had no idea how it was going to happen. No idea how he was going to make this way out of no way. No idea who God was going to use to assist me in this manner, who God was going to use to assist the vision and the plans. Didn't know how it was going to happen, but it did happen last week, because I trusted God to know that God said this, so it's going to be so, and I don't know how it's going to work out. So this is the same situation Jeroboam in. He like, look, God told me I was going to be king one day, but the kingship is going down in lineage of family, son, father, son, father. So how in the world am I going to take the throne when I'm not even blood? Same place. This is what Jeroboam was thinking. So he ran and hid. So now we got this question that Rehoboam, I know the names are similar, Rehoboam, he's now king. But the question that we have coming into chapter 12 is, will he be a wise king? His father, King Solomon, was the wisest man that ever lived. So will his son now walk in wisdom, correct some things his father had done wrong, and do what God wanted him to do? Would he adhere to the voice and the instruction of God? Will he adhere? Would he surround himself with wise people or with fools? Oh my goodness. Would he surround himself with wise people or fools? I love this chapter because I'm telling you, it makes me sit down and think about my circle, who I talk to. It makes me sit down and think who I spend my time with. It makes me sit down and think who has access to my life. Because just like chapter 12 and what is going on with Rehoboam, we too have to examine who we surround ourselves with. Will we surround ourselves with people who are wise, people who are striving after God with integrity, or will we surround ourselves with fools? Will we make decisions with wise people or with fools? Will we consult wise people? Will we consult fools? So now let's go. I actually want to read 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 1 through 15. I just need you to have understanding of what I'm talking about here. And it tells the story in 1 through 15. I'm going to try to get through it quickly. I'm going to read from the NIV translation, but write this down and go back and read it. It's 1 Kings 12, 1 through 15 is where I'm going to go. And I'll try not to read word for word, but it states, Rehoboam, all of Israel had gone to celebrate him as he became king, because he was King Solomon's son. But when Jeroboam, son of Nebat, heard, and Jeroboam was still in Egypt when he heard that, it's a new king. It's Solomon's son is going to be king. So he went to Egypt. Again, he got this word and he was scared about the word. So he went to Egypt, but now he had word that King Solomon had passed away. So now he came from Egypt, where he was hiding out at, because he said, hold up now, I got a word that said I was going to be king once Solomon passed away, and I know the son is already king. I just need to see what's happening. So verse 3 states, so they sent for Jeroboam, right? Because people knew he had this word that he was going to be king. So they sent for him, and the whole assembly of Israel went to King Rehoboam and said, listen to what Israel, all the people asked the king, the new king. This is what all the people asked the new king. King Rehoboam, Solomon's son, they asked him, verse 4, they said, your father put a heavy yoke on us, but now lighten the harsh labor and the heavy yoke that he put on us, and we will serve you. Listen to that. King Solomon had acquired so much wealth off the back of these folks. They saying, hey, look, your daddy, he was working us. He put this heavy yoke on us. He taxed us harshly. So they saying that, look, lighten up this labor and this yoke he put on us, and we will serve you if you do that. So verse 5 says, King Rehoboam said, go away for 3 days and then come back to me. So the people left. Verse 6 states, then King Rehoboam consulted with the elders. Listen to this. He consulted with the elders who have served his father, King Solomon, during his lifetime. So the men that were in leadership with his father, he went to these men to talk to them about what the people are asking. So he says, how would you advise me to answer these people? So I believe that was smart. that was wise. These people had already been serving with the prior king. They already know the issues of the people. They already know the layout of the land. They already know the concerns, the needs. They already know what resources are available. They already know how the people were being taxed and heavy worked. They already know the structure and the layout of everything. They already know the protocols. So it was wise for him to go to them and say, how would you advise me to answer these people? So verse 7, the elders tell him, verse 7 say, if today you will be a servant to these people, like if today you give them a break, like you're new to them, if today you will be a servant to these people and serve them and give them a favorable answer, they will always be your servants. Oh my goodness. So the elders say, look, if you show them this kindness in this moment, they will always be devoted to you. So verse 8 says, but Jeroboam rejected the advice the elders gave him. And what did he go do? This is so interesting. He went and consulted the young man who had grew up with him. He went to his peer group. He went to his friends, and he went to the young boys. And he asked them, what's your advice? He went to the people who had no experience in leading a nation, a tribe of people. And he went to them and asked for their advice. And verse 9 states, he asked them, what's your advice? How should we answer these people who say to me, lighten the yoke your father put on us? Verse 10 states, the young men who had grown up with him, they had the same manner of experience in life, probably lesser because he was a king's kid and they were not, but they had the same number of years that he did. He go to these young fellas and they tell him, these people have said to you, your father put a heavy yoke on us, but make our yoke lighter. Now tell them, this is what the young boys tell Rehoboam to tell the nation. Tell them, my little finger is thicker than my father's waist. My father laid on you a heavy yoke, and I will make it even heavier. My father scourged you with whips, and I will scourge you with scorpions. So his little friends tell him to go be harsher with the people. Go deal, make them more certain, make them give you more servitude. Don't give them what they want. Don't give them what they need. Don't give them a break. Deal harshly with them. Do worse than your daddy did to them. That's what his friends told him. So 3 days later, I'm in verse 12, 3 days later, Jeroboam and all these people come back to the king because he said, go for 3 days and come back. So now they come back, and verse 13 says the king answered the people harshly, rejecting the advice that the elders gave him. He followed the advice of the young man, saying, my father made your yoke heavy. I will make it even heavier. My father scourged you with whips. I will scourge you with scorpions. So the king did not listen to the people. And from this turn of events was now from the Lord. God is stepping in. From this turn of events, the word is going to be fulfilled that was spoken to Jeroboam from that prophet. When the prophet told Jeroboam, you will be king. You will be king. So because of this decision that Rehoboam made to not listen to wise counsel, but to listen to his homeboys, the turn of events started. This adversary that was in the waiting came up to now claim the throne, and the people made him king. Jeroboam became king. Like, this is something. Rehoboam received counsel from two groups. Elders that say, hey, make it easier on the people. You're a new leader. You need to win their trust. You need to, win their trust so it'll persuade them to not question if you're a good king or not. But his homeboys told him what he wanted to hear. The young boys told him to make the folks scared of you off the bat immediately. Be hard with them so that they will fear you. Oh my goodness. That is so interesting. We too, you and me, can get counsel from two groups. One group of people more than likely is going to tell, if we find trusted statesmen or trusted people, men and women of God who we trust for wise counsel, they will give us wise counsel, tell us what God requires of us and how we should handle people, pressures, and problems. How are we going to deal with people? Like when we have issues of life, we should be able to go to someone else who loves God just as much as we do, who's doing their best to serve Him just as much as we are, and to be able to get some counsel that always points us back to Jesus, that always tells us how to deal with people, pressures, and problems in a wise manner. Or the other set of person, it's always some people that's going to want to tell you what you want to hear. There will always be people, men and women, that will just soothe your desires, soothe your taste. They're going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to allow you to live this lawless life. They're going to tell you that you can do what you want with your number of days. They're going to tell you that, hey, make folks scared of you. That's how to deal with them. Just like these young boys told this king. So what's interesting about this in chapter 12, I'm telling you, it's loaded. What's interesting is that God wasn't even surprised. Oh my goodness, God wasn't surprised because God knows us. He knows what's on the inside of us. He knows how we're made. He knows the issues and the posture of our heart. He knows that we are inclined to sin. He knows that sometimes we just don't make good decisions. And sometimes we want to listen to our homegirls and our homeboys and try to do life our own way. God won't even surprise when Rehoboam made this stupid decision to disregard the elders' advice of being easy, you're a new king, be easy on the people for in the beginning at least. He didn't take that wise counsel. But I'm going to tell you, God always has the last word. So because of this decision, verse 19, same chapter 12, verse 19 says that so Israel has been in rebellion against the house of David to this day. It is November 16, 2025, and Israel is still in rebellion. Israel is still in a state of chaos. Is still in a state of need, is still in a state of war to this present day. There's protests in Jerusalem and Gaza, is wars and famine and mass casualty, and Israel, Jerusalem, Gaza is still at war. When I'm telling you, when I look at the news, the Bible tells us to always go back to the former things. So when I look at the news, I know I got to go back. I know there are going to be situations that's just going to happen. There are going to be things that are going to happen that are going to be stirred up, all because of decisions that was made in former days. Verse 19 states that because of this decision that there's a new king made, King Rehoboam, God gave him all opportunity, all resources to make the right decisions. God gave him a council of elders, of wise men to help him make decisions. So because he made this stupid decision, Israel has always been in contention and is still in contention. It's always division, seeking out that place. It's been like that. I love the word. I'm telling you, I don't know how people say that the Bible is not real. I love the, you can look at the world and see the Bible. I mean, I love this. So after Rehoboam's failure, Jeroboam now becomes king. And only the tribe of Judah and Benjamin remain under Jeroboam rule. Because remember last chapter, Jeroboam got that word that he was going to be ruler of 10 of the 12 tribes. So now 2 are left with Rehoboam. Jeroboam got 10. And from that day, the tribes have been in constant war. And they will have constant wars in the future. So let this be a reminder for you to take heed, for me to take heed to godly counsel. and submit our souls to God's word, our mind, our will, and our emotions, to submit it to God's word and to trust in God's sovereignty, to trust in his sovereignty. Sovereignty is the fact that God is sovereign means that he has the power, he has the wisdom, he has the authority to do anything he chooses to do with his creation. I love that. Anything. We all are not God's children, because to be children, we got to acknowledge our father. We got to have these parents. We got to be a child of the Most High, but we are all his creation. He created all of us, even if we want to be his kid or not. He created all of us, even if we want to be in relationship with him or not. We are all his creation. So he has the power, he has the wisdom and the authority to do whatever he wants to do with his creation. That's the sovereignty of God. Whether or not he exerts his power in different situations of our life, whether or not he exerts control in different situations of our life, it's up to him. And that's why believers get tricked into now going to be agnostic, or going to be different forms of atheism, or saying they just gonna believe in the universe as supreme, which is weird because God created the universe, so it can't be supreme. But anywho, we got all of these people who walk away from God and walk away from the church because they don't understand his sovereign power, because they wanted God to intervene into something and he didn't intervene in the situation. So now they dismiss God and all his angels. They dismiss God and all his power. And they say he can't be real because he didn't intervene in this situation. But he is sovereign. He is a sovereign God. He do what he want to do when he want to do it. I'm telling you, he will take a person that you believe is the worst person on earth, and he will have his plans come to pass with this villain, with this worst person that you can imagine here on earth, because his plan is going to be done. Whether he got to use a donkey, a fool, one of his children, his plan is going to be done. Well, we lose people in the body of Christ because we don't teach them that God is sovereign, that he has the power to exert himself or to stay as is and not exert his power. But either way, whether he intervene or not, he's still God. He's still God, and nothing can stop God's purpose, right? He knew our future when we was born. God knew your future when you were born. I want to read something. You can note it down, but I want to read Isaiah chapter 46, verse 9 and 10. I'm going to read it from the NIV translation, but it's Isaiah chapter 46, verse 9 through 10. NIV translation states, remember the former things, those of long ago. So that's what we're doing when we look at the state of Israel, Gaza, Jerusalem today. We got to go back and remember the former things that happened a long time ago. How disobedience caused centuries and generations of discord. But Isaiah chapter 46 says, remember the former things, those of long ago. So we even got to remember the times that God came through for us back in the day. We got to remember times that we prayed and asked God for something and he revealed that thing to us. Sometimes swift and sometimes a little slow, but God came through. We got to remember the days that he got us up out of the bed when we didn't want to get up out of the bed. We got to remember the former things, days where we thought we was going to lose our mind. And then as we go along, we still have our sanity. We got to remember these former things. The text states, I am God and there is no other. I am God and there is no other. I am God and there is none like me, is what your text states. I make known the end from the beginning. I make known the end from the beginning. God, when you look at First Kings, when you look at the book of Kings, God tells us the end before these things even come to pass. God tells us in this text that because of this decision, you're going to always have wars and discord and division and divisiveness in this land before it even came to pass. So Isaiah goes on to say, I make known the end from the beginning, from ancient times what is still to come. I say my purpose will stand and I will do all that I please. I got to drop this in the chat because I love it. It reminds us of God's sovereignty. God said, look, I've done things before. I know what's happening before it happened. And I'm telling you, my purpose will stand and I'm going to do all that I please, irregardless of who he has to use to do it. You can be so unqualified. You can be so dismayed. You can be a person that lacks knowledge, but God can still use you because his purpose has to come to pass and because he's going to do what he please. We got to live this life acknowledging and honoring King Jesus. We got to live this life with the one who alleviates our burdens, the one who provides for our greatest of needs. I don't know about you, even recently I had some greatest of needs in my household, but God is the one who provides for our greatest of needs, and he has to rule this kingdom. He will rule this kingdom with just and fairness. He's going to rule it with wisdom. And if he got to use somebody, anybody, whoever, he is going to get it done. People that we will count not worthy, God will still get what he got to have done. He's going to get it done because he's sovereign. He does what he wants with his creation. God will use an unbeliever to bless you if he has to, because he does what he wants to do with his creation. Oh my goodness. I want to read a quote. This is one of the quotes I love. It is by Louis Giglio. Louis Giglio states, God's plans for your life far exceed the circumstances of the day. Oh my goodness. I don't know about you, but man, I have to quote that to myself even this week, that God's plan for our life, it exceeds the circumstances of today. It exceeds the circumstances of the day. It doesn't matter what's happening today, because tomorrow is a new day. That next year is a new year. Next week is a new week. God's plans for our life far exceeds the circumstances of the day. I love that quote. His plan for my life. So what I have to do, what Rehoboam should have done, is seek wise counsel, pray, allow people to pray for you, ask people to stand in a gap with you, that you can get through the day, because what God has for you so far exceeds today. So you just got to get through today. Maybe got to get through tomorrow with the same issues of today, but just know that better days are coming. Better days are coming because God's plan has to be performed. His will has to be done. And what he has already planned out for your life, it far exceeds any foolishness that can come up in your day. You just got to make wise decisions and treat people fairly and treat people with justice and listen to people, and you got to do the best whenever you can, so that you can get to the good part, so that you can get what God has planned for your life. You got to remember that circumstances of today don't last always. Trouble don't last always. It has to come to an end. Weeping may endure for a night. I love Ty Tribbett's song that says, but only one night though. You can, if you cry, go and cry, but for only one night though. If you feel scared, you got one night. You got to get up and you got to live this life out every single day, knowing that, as Louis stated, the plans that God has for you far exceeds whatever issues, hang up, circumstances that you got to deal with in today. Whether that's work stuff, family matters, sickness, disease, financial hardships, God's plan for your life far exceeds the circumstances of your day. When Jesus was washing, I'm going to close with this, but when Jesus was washing the feet of the disciples, Peter asked him, what are you doing? Like, why are you washing our feet? We should be washing your feet. Like, why are you washing our feet? But Jesus looked up to him and he said, and this is in John 13, verse 7. John 13, verse 7, Jesus states to Peter, when Peter asked him, what are you doing? Why are you washing our feet? Jesus says, what I am doing, you do not realize right now, but you will understand later. And you got to know that the decisions you make today, you may not know why you're making that decision. You may not know why you're dealing with what you got going on right now. But if you keep living and if you keep choosing Jesus, Jesus told him, you don't realize it right now, but you're going to understand later. You're going to understand later why you went through the things you've been through. All the dynamic and interesting things I've been through in my life, all the rejection and the hardships, financial hardships, family hardships, relationship hardships, all of the ships that I have sailed in, I can look back on most of them now and have a greater understanding of why I dealt with that and witnessing the power of God to keep pulling me through and pulling me beyond situations and circumstances, because the circumstance of that day, the plan God had for me far exceeded that. So whatever happens today, tomorrow, the plan that God has for us far exceeds that moment. We just got to keep trusting God, keep living and making wise decisions. Don't consult fools. Don't consult people who have no experience. Don't consult people that don't know nothing. They can't put 1 + 1 together to make 2. Don't consult people that just want to give you what you want to hear, just want to hype you up in the manner you want to be hyped up in. You better consult some folk that's been through some things that they can ignite in you a fire that will keep burning for God despite your circumstances. So that, beloved, that is our synopsis of chapter 12 of Kings. I pray that it bless you. I pray that you remain excited to come back to this in the new year, coming back to the books of Kings as we take a little detour, but we're going to get right back on that track of Kings because there's so much to learn. Kings, it will disciple you. The book of Kings will disciple you. So that is my intention of making sure I go through it, because we are all supposed to be growing, and Kings will grow you. Kings will disciple you. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to pray. And then I want you to go out here and you have a wonderful week. We are coming into spending season. So I'm going to keep saying, do not be taking yourself into debt for world events, for materialistic setups. Don't take yourself in debt for these things. But this is all about, I believe this season is for you to just love on some folk, right? We don't know the day nor the hour in which how long a person will be present with us. You just about to love on some folks while you have your people, and be nice to people, strangers and those you know, because you never know who God may use to bless you. You never know. Just like Rehoboam, he didn't know that he needed them people. He needed to be kind to them people. He needed to be gracious to them people, because the rest of the world was at stake based off whether he was going to show grace or not. So you go out and show grace to other people. I love you. Let's pray. Dear God, we just thank you for your loving kindness and your grace, Father. I thank you for everyone that will hear the sound